All right, while Mr. Jackson is taking a moment, we do want to bring in our guest for this hour to discuss what we've been seeing so far. Joining us now, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. All right, just give us your take on what we've seen so far. We've had Jen McCabe on the stand under cross-examination for quite some time.
Yeah, I know what Alan Jackson's trying to do. He's trying to do something very, very difficult. It's like the legal equivalent of like climbing Mount Everest. He has to tie Jen McCabe in with the Alpers, right? Because Jen McCabe was at the house. She was at the gathering at 34 Fairview. So, for example, Carrie Roberts' cross-examination was, a fraction of the time of Jen McCabe's because she wasn't there. But Jen McCabe was there. So Alan Jackson knows that he has to find a way to tie the Alperts and the McCabes, all of them together into one, grand conspiracy. And so that's why this is taking so long, because he's trying to get as many inconsistent statements as possible. And Jen McCabe came ready to play in this trial. I mean, she's doing a fantastic job, and she's frustrating Alan Jackson. She's frustrating him. She's coming off too good, too sincere, too honest, too credible. So, I know what Alan Jackson's trying to do. I don't envy the task. He's actually doing a good job at it. But I think that this cross-examination should have ended a day and a half ago. I think it's going too long. He runs the risk of really, alienating any juror that wanted to buy his theory. I think he runs the risk of alienating them just because of how long he's going. And man, I don't think anyone could stand up to this. Is just basically torture, how long it's taking for her. She's standing up very, very well.
Hey, let's talk about those inconsistencies that the defense wants this jury to hang their hat on, because they're showing that video to try and show that she was much more in control of her emotions. She was calm, and they're insinuating it's because she knew all along what happened to him. This was not her first time seeing John O'Keefe in the snow. I want to know how bad you rate this in terms of a problem for the prosecution on a scale of 1 to 10, Michael Jaafar, because this issue of her texting John O'Keefe at 12:45, telling him to come in. She has before testified that, yeah, I texted when I saw the SUV outside. But it's coming out in court that that text was at 12:45. And the prosecution says that Karen Read left at 12:33. So was she just texting later than she thought after she saw the SUV, or is what she texted a lie? How bad do you think that is for the prosecution?
That's a great question. I tend to think that it's a 1. I'll tell you why. Because once this trial is done, the jurors are going to have to go into the room and put this all in context, right? There's going to be a lot of trial between now and then. There's going to be a closing argument. They're going to have to put it into context. And so really, if they discard the theory that Jen McCabe had anything to do with John O'Keefe's murder, I think that they will discard the 12:45 text and, versus the 12:33. I think they'll discard it. It's not completely nothing, but I would think that it's going to be, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 1, maybe even a 0.
Gotcha. Interesting point. All right, Michael, thank you so much. We're going to squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of the Karen Read retrial. Ooh, that got pretty heated.
It did. And his last bit of cross-examination.
Wow, and then we noticed Karen Read there. If anybody could see her demeanor, she was smiling as Alan Jackson was going and going and going. Let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Okay, Michael, what do you make of those exchanges?
Wow, that was riveting. Friday, May 2nd, this is the day that I notated that Jen McCabe checkmated Alan Jackson. Right at the end there, that was just like the crescendo. Like, she checkmated him. She did a fantastic job. He was giving it to her, but she checkmated him. Right at the end when he told, he was bringing us all up into, why didn't you go into the house? Your sister, somebody's dead on her lawn. I didn't have to go into her. And then she recited all of her greatest hits. She said, I hit him. She was screaming. Her taillight was broken, and he never came in the house. All the greatest hits that she had, she just put them all out there right at the end. It was riveting, excellent. The jurors are going to have all weekend to think about it, right? They're definitely going to be thinking about it at lunch. That was riveting, palpable moment. I wish I was in the courtroom for it. You can't write a movie with a script like this. This is high noon, like drama, drama, drama. I wish people watched this trial from beginning to end. This second trial is really living up to its billing as the retrial of the century. That was riveting. Both of those performers, Alan Jackson and Jen McCabe, they've got my gratitude.
Yeah, real even demeanor from Jen McCabe. In the face of that, I was wondering if she was going to get her feathers ruffled because he was really bringing everything he had at her. I thought that he was seeming to make some headway with this question of why didn't you go in the house? Brian Albert's in the house. You would think that if you have someone that's dying, you are going to use every resource you can, but I think it hurts the argument that she did call her sister twice. He tried to use both things against her. What do you think about that attempt by Alan Jackson?
I think he had to do what he had to do. What he's doing is like the legal version of a pole vault maneuver, right? You have to maintain your momentum throughout the whole entire maneuver, otherwise you'll fall and break your back. He has to do it, right? He has to do exactly what he's doing. She's the case, right? This week was the week of Jen McCabe. But at the end of the day, she has ice in her veins. She came at him right at the end without any voice inflection, and she threw it right back at him. She threw him right back in his lap, said, I wasn't worried. Here's why I wasn't worried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She just broke down what he spent 3 days to do. She just, in my opinion, broke it down in a matter of 4 sentences.
Michael, why do you think we didn't see some objections from the Commonwealth there? It could have interrupted Alan Jackson's momentum. He was kind of on a roll there. They could have even just said something just to interrupt that momentum he had going.
That's an excellent question. I was thinking about it. Up until this morning, I was worried. I was upset that Hank Brennan didn't object. And I'm like, you know what? Hank Brennan's a really seasoned attorney. He's a criminal defense attorney. He lives on objections, right? So what I thought about this morning was, I think because you always know your customer. Hank Brennan knows his customer. His customer is the jury people in New England, Massachusetts, right? He didn't want them to hear him object. If he heard them object, because in my opinion is he thinks that this whole defense is a farce, and because of that, if he is seen to be objecting and interceding and defending who Alan Jackson wants to say is part of a corrupt conspiracy, maybe people will actually buy into it. I think it was intentional. He didn't even prepare her for this, and we found out she never even met with him and got prepared. I think he made the gamble that this is a woman who's got ice in her veins. This is her second time around. She doesn't need any more motivation from me, and by the way, if I object, people are going to hear me object. Whatever happens outside of that courtroom and inside the courtroom, osmosis this way for the jury. Even if you object, you cannot unhear something. So in my opinion, I think it was intentional. I think he wanted to let Alan Jackson and Jen McCabe have a clash, like a train collision. He wanted it to happen. We have a spectacle on our hands. There should be a documentary just about this cross-examination. I was very impressed, riveted. That's why I think Hank Brennan did not object. Logically speaking, he should have objected at least every 2-3 minutes. But he didn't object. So, you know, we saw one objection earlier today, but yeah. I think it was intentional.
I like that analysis because we were thinking badgering. We were thinking he's interrupting her. She's not finishing her sentence. Yeah. Somebody say something, but you're right. It would have interrupted that moment at the end of Cross. Michael Jaafar, thank you so much for your analysis this hour. We have to get to a break, but